Hey everyone, I'm Jay Shear and welcome to another episode of Business Minds Coffee Chat. The goal of this show is to share insights, help to lift and inspire others, and deliver relevant, meaningful, and actionable content. Do you think the way you think is the best way to think? Ponder that one. Want to learn how to become empowered to make the foundational changes that unlock greater success in all areas of your life? Well, get ready because today's guest can help you do just that. He's a leadership and organizational change consultant, professor, trainer, researcher, and author of the Wall Street Journal and USA Today best-selling book, Success Mindsets: Your Keys to Unlocking Greater Success in Your Life, Work, and Leadership. In addition, he's a husband and father of two, a lover of sports, including basketball, running, hiking, and boogie boarding. Please welcome the man whose research has been cited over 1,800 times since 2014, Ryan Gottfredson. Ryan.
Jay, thanks for letting me hang out with you and your crew.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for being here. I'm grateful. I've got to tell you, I am just so excited about this topic and I am ready to jump in and get going. So first of all, why don't you tell us where your story begins, Ryan, and at what point did you discover your purpose?
Oh, gee, you're starting big. So let me start maybe with my journey as it relates to mindsets. So for me, I feel like I've always been kind of the self-help junkie. I took a class in high school called sports psychology. And I still remember the books that I read and loved, which were Stephen Covey's 7 Habits, a book by Mike Krzyzewski, a book by Pat Riley, and a book by Rick Majerus, and who are all basketball coaches at the time. And that started my love for self-help. And I just thought, man, if I could ever be in a position to write a book like this, like that would be my dream come true. And I guess I always had that aspiration, but didn't necessarily put a lot of weight in it. I ended up going into organizational behavior. I did my PhD at Indiana University in organizational behavior and human resources, which is essentially was my sports psychology class, but applied to business, which was fantastic. And I did my dissertation on leadership, as that's kind of been just an interest of mine. And this allowed me to review the last 70 years of leadership research. And what I found is that across this research, the vast majority of it focuses on answering one question: what do leaders need to do to be effective? And I think that this is a really good question. And obviously, a lot of people want the answer to this question because we continue to focus on it. But to me, it seemed a little bit short-sighted because I think that leadership isn't just about doing the right things. It's about being a certain type of person, being somebody that other people want to follow. And so in my research journey, my journey is focused on how do we tap into this being element of leadership, and everything's led me to mindsets. And with this understanding and the framework that I've created, my purpose now is to help people awaken to their mindsets, because when they do so, they're empowered to change their lives to accomplish the success that they're seeking. If I can help people do that, then I want to do that as much as I can.
So Ryan, when did you actually discover that? When were you able to articulate what that purpose is for you?
Well, part of it was I feel like I've always been somebody who wants to better the lives of others. And I think maybe part of my upbringing is that I learned at a very early age that how you see the world shapes how you operate in the world. But I'd never been able to kind of grab a hold of anything tangible that kind of explained that. And so when I actually had a situation, so I was at Cal State Fullerton for 2 years, and just things weren't clicking like I wanted them to. I kind of felt stuck, or I felt very stuck. And I transitioned over to a consulting company called Gallup, which is, they work with organizations to develop employee engagement. And I was really excited about that opportunity, but I landed there. In fact, I got hired under a job posting for a research lead. And I got in there and I found out they didn't even have a research lead position. And that effectively I was a glorified data analyst and was really pigeonholed into doing data analysis and not the consulting work and the research that I was doing. And so again, I found myself stuck. And after a year of this and banging my head against the wall and trying to expand my role, I was on the phone with my manager and she essentially said, look, this doesn't seem to be a great fit for either of us. We're going to have to let you go. So I got, effectively laid off from my job, and I was just, all the weight came crashing down of, oh my goodness, I live in one of the most expensive parts of the country. I got a family to support. What the heck am I going to do? And luckily I was on a leave from the university so I could go back to the university. But what that did is it shook me, and it also provided me the time to dive into my research at a much deeper level and really focus on mindsets in my research. And as I did that, what I discovered for myself was, while surely there was things about these organizations that were limiting me, the primary reason why I was so stuck was my own mindsets, and I didn't realize it. So what I thought at the time was how I saw the world was the best way to see the world. And it wasn't until being exposed to mindsets that, look, there's better ways of seeing the world. And if you can awaken to those, then you could do something about it. So I was kind of effectively wearing glasses, maybe like red tinted glasses, thinking I was seeing the world in the best possible way and not realizing it. And it wasn't until effectively through my research, somebody came along and said, hey, you're wearing some goofy looking glasses. You may want to change those because you'll be able to live better. And that's kind of what happened is through all of that research is I learned about that from the negative to the positive.
Wonderful. So the book that you've written, I've read it and I love it. It's one of those books that's absolutely going to be sitting right by me, a reference guide, something that I'll certainly be looking to many, many times moving forward. But there's a number of books available on mindset, including the book Mindset by Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck, and another excellent book.
Yeah.
Why did you write this book, and how is it different than other books about mindset?
Yeah, great question. I mean, you're so right. There's a lot of books out there on mindsets, and some of them are better than others. I would say Carol Dweck's book is a really great book. As a mindset expert, I would say it has some limitations, but for the most part, I think it's a great book. Mm-hmm. The thing about it, about my book, is my biggest question when I started to learn about mindsets and the power that they have in our lives is, what mindsets do I need to have? And I couldn't find a clear answer to that other than Carol Dweck's model of fixed versus growth mindsets. In fact, when I Googled that was literally one of the first things I did. What I found is most of the articles don't even focus on mindsets. They focus on behaviors. And so, but what I think we all understand is that mindsets are really critical to success, but yet very few people know what mindsets they need to have to be successful. And so that's where my research really started, is what mindsets are out there and what mindsets do I need to have to be successful. And as I searched the academic literature, I found that mindsets have been studied for the last 30 years across psychology, education, management, and marketing. And even though research has been done on these mindsets in each of these disciplines, they largely haven't been talking to each other. So independently, they've been finding that these mindsets shape how we think, how we learn, and how we behave, but they have existed in isolation. So all I've done with my book is essentially just bring these different sets of mindsets together into one framework so we can have clarity about these different types of mindsets, that mindsets hopefully will no longer be this kind of fuzzy topic. Oh yeah, mindsets are good. You need to have positive mindsets. We could actually have research-backed, tangible information about our mindsets, that we have clear labels and descriptions to mindsets that allow us to introspect about those personally. Or if I'm a business leader, how do I create these mindsets within a workplace context? We know exactly what we're working with.
Well, that's a great segue then to talk about what are the four types of mindsets, and can you compare and contrast them for us?
Yeah, for sure. So fixed and growth is usually where I start because more people are familiar with that set than the other set. So fixed is when we don't believe that we could change our talents, abilities, and intelligence. A growth mindset is we do believe that we could change our talents, abilities, and intelligence. And the reason why this matters is because if we don't believe that we can improve and we fail, we're left to internalize that as though we are a failure. Because if we fail and we can't do anything about it, then that must mean we're a failure. But those with the growth mindset, when they fail, they don't see it as reflecting anything about them. They see it as an opportunity to learn and grow, and perhaps the best opportunity to learn and grow. So fixing growth high level is this: can I change or not? Those are the fixed mindset, or live in a world or either have it or you don't. Whereas those with the growth mindset kind of see in shades of gray.
Hmm.
The next set is closed versus open. So this is how open or closed our mind is to the ideas and suggestions of others. The third set is prevention and promotion. Prevention is when we're primarily focused on not losing, whereas when we have a promotion mindset, we're focused on winning. And there's a huge difference. So effectively, at the end of the day, those with the prevention mindset end up being comfort focused, whereas those with the promotion mindset are purpose focused. And then the last set, and we could dive into any of these, but the last set is inward versus outward. When we have an inward mindset, we see ourselves as more important than others, causing us to see others as objects. Whereas if we have an outward mindset, we see others as being just as important as ourselves, which allows us to see them as people. So those are the four sets. So hopefully that makes sense, at least at a high level.
Yeah, it does. Curious, where are these mindsets formed? So do we carry this from our upbringing, biases that we have, people we surround ourselves with? Where's it coming from?
No, love the question. It's really, I'm going to say broadly, it's two sources. So one source is our life experiences, and that includes our upbringing. You know, research has even found how we were complimented as children by our parents shapes the degree to which we have a fixed versus a growth mindset. So if we were complimented with labels like, oh, you were so pretty, you were so smart, you were so funny, that makes us inclined to develop more of a fixed mindset because we want to be seen as a have. Whereas if we're complimented by our efforts, like, oh, you did such a great job, way to put forth a lot of effort, then we're going to be more inclined to develop a growth mindset. So part of it is our upbringing. The other part of it is that our current culture. So what is the culture in our family? What is the culture in our work environment? If the culture is such that it's really competitive, it's going to incentivize us to take on the negative mindsets. If the culture is collaborative, it's going to incentivize us to take on more of the positive mindset. So those are the two primary factors that drive our mindsets. But the cool thing about focusing on mindsets from a development perspective is that these mindsets are things that we could change. And in fact, we could change them pretty easily.
So I want to dig into that because I was going to ask you about the kind of the scale. Is there a spectrum to each of these? And then also, so I was going to ask you if our mindsets are malleable.
Okay. So let me address a few of these things. So one of the things we need to recognize is I identified these sets of mindsets: growth, closed, and open. These exist on a continuum. So our mindsets fall somewhere along this continuum. And in fact, if you want to identify where along these continuums your mindsets are, I've got a free mindset assessment on my website at ryangottfredson.com that you can check out.
Wonderful.
But when it comes to shifting our mindsets, I think one of the things that's helpful to think about is if we created a scale of different attributes about ourselves that range from really stable to not very stable, we would find things on the stable end like intelligence, personality, even weight, right? These are fairly stable things. It's, weight is going to be less stable than our height, for example. And then things that are really unstable are things like our moods, our emotions, our feelings. These are things that can change really rapidly. Our mindsets kind of fall right in the middle. So they are things that we can change. They're not the easiest things in the world to change, but once we change them, they have a tendency to stick around for a little bit. So, and I love that you're getting into the neuroscience of this. So let me give you an example of a study that's been done. So in this study, a group of researchers split up some financial professionals into two groups. One group, they showed a 3-minute video about how stress is debilitating. The other group, they showed a 3-minute video about how stress is enhancing, designed to activate different mindsets around stress. And then they tracked their engagement, performance, and blood pressure over the next 2 weeks. And what they found is that those who saw the 3-minute video, how stress is enhancing, they had higher engagement, higher performance, and lower blood pressure. So a 3-minute video, what it's doing is it's activating and strengthening the positive mindsets associated with stress. And when they carry around those these activated neural connections, positive mindset neural connections, then when they approach a challenge, seeing stress as a good thing, they're like, yeah, bring it on. But those who have activated the negative mindsets around stress, when they hit a challenge, they think, oh no, not again, right? So just one intervention, and then we could find this repeated over many, many studies, one single intervention can shift our mindsets for up to 2 weeks.
Wow, that's incredible.
Now, if we want to shift our mindsets on a more permanent basis, what that means is we need to engage in regular and repeated interventions. And essentially what we need to do is we need to work out our brain. So just like we hit the gym for our muscles, if we work out once, yeah, there'll be a little bit of benefit. But if we truly want increased strength, increased flexibility, we've got to do it over and over again. And the more that we do it, the more that becomes permanent. And so that's the same thing with our mindsets. We've just got to hit the gym for our brain.
Wow, that is really interesting, especially that study that you alluded to. So let's talk for a moment about some of those tactical things or the exercises and strategies that our viewers can use to help them overcome limiting beliefs, change their mindsets. And if it's something that we need to do repeatedly, do we first need a baseline from which to work? So your assessment as an example, would that be a good place to start and then we work from there?
I think it's a great place to start, but you don't necessarily have to start there. I think it's really helpful to understand where you're at and where you need to go, because then you could connect the dots. And so the assessment does that. I mean, the research study that I told you about, that was what they did with those financial professionals, is they shifted their mindsets, and those financial professionals weren't conscious of it. So what we do want to do is we want to make shifts in mindsets in a very conscious way. And so the mindset assessment really helps with that. Is it absolutely necessary? No, because we could do it without it. But some high level tips in terms of mindsets is, again, we've got to just engage in these regular interventions. So some examples of these regular interventions are reading books related to the mindsets, because as you read, let's just say you read 1 chapter a day. That's an exercise every day, activating that positive mindset neural connection. Watch videos related to it. TED Talks, for example, can be great sources. Listening to certain music, engaging in journaling exercises, doing gratitude and meditation. What those things do is they may not directly shift your mindsets. They start to break down how rigid we hold on to our mindsets, which helps make the shifting better. So let me, if it's okay, can I dive into a specific example for
Yeah, I'd love you
my
to, please.
experience? So an example for me was as I got laid off of Gallup, and as I was coming back to Cal State Fullerton, I was meeting with a CEO of an organization here in Orange County. His name is Charles Antis, really dynamic person. You know him, right, Jay?
I do know Charles.
Yeah, so Charles, awesome dude. So Charles, first time I met him, he hands me this book, if you could see that. It's called The 5-Minute Journal. And he says, this is going to change your life. And I said, oh, thank you. It's so kind. So that's how I was outwardly. But inwardly, I'm thinking, there is no way in hell I'm journaling. Charles, I don't know what you're thinking, but it's not happening. So I bring him the journal and I open it up and I say, oh, it's just answering a few questions in the morning and a couple of questions at night. And so I was like, he says it'll change my life. I'll put it to the test. Like what? It's only supposed to be 5 minutes. So I said, I'll do it for 2 weeks. And if I notice a difference, I'll keep doing it. If not, no harm done. So I did this, and every morning I'll answer the questions. What are 3 things I'm grateful for? What are 3 things that would make today great? And then list some daily affirmations. And upon doing this, I very, very quickly noticed a difference, because what I had at that time was a strong prevention mindset. Like I was focused on not losing, on comfort. But as I started to do this, and particularly answer the question, what are 3 things that I could do to make today great? It started to make me more promotion minded. How do I make today better than yesterday? How do I make this week better than last week? How do I make this year better than last year? And this, so for me, what this was my daily 5-minute workout for my promotion mindset neuroconnection. And over time, and it wasn't a long time, probably about a month or 2, as I shifted to a strong promotion mindset. And as I made that shift, I did some things I never would have done before. So I started up my own consulting business, which I never thought I'd be an entrepreneur. I went into debt to do so, and I was, deathly afraid of debt. And then I decided I wanted to write a book. And so after shifting my mindsets, then I started to see traction come in terms of gaining greater success, moving closer to my goal of helping people live their best lives. And then, so if I hadn't have made this shift in my mindsets, I mean, ultimately, I wouldn't have written my book. It wouldn't have hit any bestseller lists, which I never thought would be possible. And we wouldn't be having this conversation.
That is incredibly powerful. And it's so interesting, Ryan, how sometimes it's those what seem to be very small things that come into your life that when you act on them, they can have massive ramifications. And in your case, very positive things happen for you. And that is also a practice that I do daily in terms of gratitude and thinking about how I want to show up and how I can make this the best day possible and those sorts of things. And when you do that repeatedly over a period of time, as you've already stated, it absolutely can change your world, and it changes the optics and how you look at things.
Yeah, no, for sure. And in fact, one of the things that I've developed is called a digital mindset coach. And you can also find that on my website. But we use a platform called QStream. And what this is an app, and you can get it either via email or on your phone. But if people sign up for it, it prompts you with 3 questions about every other day that you engage in. And there's questions around mindsets. There's also questions around videos that you have you watch, and questions around journaling exercises. So what it's designed to do is it's essentially designed to be the gym for your mindsets. Is every other day, you're prompted to engage and answer these questions, watch videos, do journaling exercises. And then after you answer the question, you'll get feedback on whether you get it right or wrong. And if you get it right, the question will pop up 4 weeks later. If you get it wrong, it'll pop up 2 weeks later. And you have to get it right twice in a row in order to retire a question. And so what this is doing is there's 2 primary purposes to this. Is one, it is helping us shift our mindsets. But then two, it's helping us retain the information that we either learned in my book or in a webinar that I send out to people related to this material. And the byproduct then of these two benefits, so some secondary benefits, is it helps people deepen their self-awareness, and it helps them to become more intentional about their mindsets and really about their life. And so that's a tool for some folks. It's really an honor to be able to help people, and I'm getting feedback now that my book is out. It just came out a few weeks ago. I get an email, I don't know, almost every day, every other day, from people who have read the book and said, this has been game changing for me. And that's really humbling. And I feel very fortunate to have had some impact on people's lives, and hopefully we can help more. So appreciate the opportunity to talk about this with you and your audience,
sure.
Jay.
So Ryan, what are you optimistic about right now? So as you see what's going on around the world, and knowing that you're a mindset person and that this is something that we're always working on, what are you optimistic about?
Great question. So I feel like I've observed this phenomenon more and more, even in my life, but it even goes back beyond, my time. What we're seeing a lot in the world is a polarization. People are becoming increasingly polarized. In fact, there's studies that have been done that like in the 60s, people, they would live with people in the neighborhood with different political views. Nowadays, it's actually quite rare to be in a neighborhood that is very dynamic when it comes to its political views. We kind of navigate towards people that share even our political views. So the world is becoming increasingly polarized, which I think is problematic. So that's not a great thing. But what I do see that I'm really optimistic about is that as the world is growing increasingly polarized, there's something that's happening right in the middle. And so what is popping up right in the middle of all of this is what I've heard termed the mindfulness revolution. That there's a group of people that are popping up in the middle that are willing to be able to sit in the middle, to sit in the complexity of diverse perspectives and just be okay with that complexity. And when we can get there at a mental level, what that really means, and what research has found, is what that's signifying is a high level of mental maturity. And so with tools, I think my book kind of will help people get there. But other books like Carol Dweck's, a whole bunch of other resources are really helping people now more than ever become more mentally mature and to rise up in this middle grouping that are willing to sit in the messiness that comes with polarized perspectives. And so I'm optimistic that this group is going to continue to grow, and that this group is going to be the leaders of our future. And so I hope that that's the case. I hope that the wave continues to build around these broader ideas around self-awareness, mindfulness, mindsets, because I think as a whole, that if we can get into that middle group, we're going to be able to benefit the world. If we continue to rely upon the polarization, I think we're in for trouble. But if we can have some leaders that are able to sit with the messiness of that polarization, then we're in for a world of good, a really bright future.
Love that view. All right, that's a good one. So Ryan, before I ask my last question, and we've alluded to a couple of places, but where can we go to learn more about you, buy your book, and also check out your transformative content?
Yeah, the website's going to be the best place. So there you'll find the mindset assessment. You could find access to my book and some promotional giveaways with that. So for example, if you buy the book, I'll give you the audiobook for free. And then my digital mindset coach is on there as well, and a bunch of other resources. The second best place is probably LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to connect with anybody there.
All right, fantastic. So you heard it straight from Ryan, where to go to consume his content. And I would definitely encourage everyone to take that assessment, There's no cost for that assessment, and you're going to receive an email that gives you a very informative breakdown of each of the mindsets in which where you ranked on those. So it's an excellent, excellent tool. So Ryan, here's my final question to you. If you could interview any living person, who would it be and why?
Oh man. Oh, there's so many names that are going through my head. So I'm thinking. Part of me says some of my most favorite authors. So Bob Quinn is a guy that's written some fantastic books. Brene Brown is another one that I would just love to just spend a day with. But then I also think my childhood idol is Michael Jordan, just to kind of connect with him. Yeah, that's a good question.
So
Maybe that's a start.
That's a great start. So let's take Michael Jordan as an example. If you were sitting in front of Michael Jordan, what would you want to learn from him?
I'd want to feed off of just his energy, just who he is. I think what I would want to explore if I could dive into mindsets with him is I think Michael Jordan is definitely a individual. I also say that what I know about Michael Jordan, and I think he would admit this, is he's not a perfect person. And he's not the most perfect role model. In fact, many of his teammates didn't like him. So I would love to just dive into mindsets with him and just see if there's things that he could go back and do differently. What would he have done? And what could I learn from that? Because I think he was, if I've kind of pit him the way that I think is accurate, which is I think he had a really strong promotion mindset, off the charts promotion mindset, off the charts growth mindset. I don't know how open-minded he was, but I think one of the things that limited him is that, and partly it was because of the situation that he was in as such a massive celebrity, is he did have, I think, a really strong inward mindset. And what I would like to discover is if you could go back in time and operate still with the promotion, still with the growth mindsets, but also take on more of an outward mindset, how would that have changed your life? And it'd just be interesting to see what he'd say.
All right. Well, fantastic. So for you, write in that journal this evening who those three individuals are that you would love to be able to interview and make that happen. All right, Ryan, thank you so very much for joining us today. I truly do appreciate it. I'm grateful for your content. Thank you for writing the book. And if I was a betting man, I would say that there's another book or two in there, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what comes next. And thank you for being here on Business Minds Coffee Chat today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm chomping on the bit for book number 2, so we'll get working on it. But really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and then also your listeners.
Absolutely. And for the rest of you, thank you very much for watching. And if you found value in this episode, you know what to do. Like and share with your friends. And until next time, stay healthy and optimistic. Keep learning and growing. And remember that transformative change in your life and business always begins with you, and nothing happens until you take action. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.